I see you watching this video. It might be your first, it might be your fifth, but you watch a lot of Magic the Gathering content, odds are. And you've consumed dozens, if not hundreds of hours of people talking about cards and prices and stores and buying and selling and trading and collecting and vending and grading. And you have wondered to yourself, should I be more involved than I currently am? If you're a casual player, should you be a serious player? If you're a serious player, should you be a seller too? If you're a seller, should you be an investor? If you're an investor, should you own a store? That's not necessarily the evolution of how things work, but you get the idea, is that you're wondering, should I take my next step? What should that next step be? Well, let's dig into it, because there are personality traits that are key to being successful in any business, but today we're talking about Magic the Gathering. And so if you're thinking to yourself, should I be a seller of Magic the Gathering? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the personality traits. Let's talk about what goes into it, what makes a successful backpack seller, what makes a successful store owner, what makes someone who is not going to succeed in those things. So I'm really excited to dig into all that with you. But first off, here's the disclaimer. I guess it's not as much of a disclaimer as a warning. Here's the warning. Personality tests are controversial. They're not controversial because of their scientific validity, or, well, some of them are. What we're going to be using today is the big five personality traits. That is the one that psychologists and scientists generally use to predict outcomes in life. It's also the one that corporations use. If you apply to, Fortune 500 or, I don't know, just some publicly listed company, odds are they're going to have you take a kind of like personality test along with an IQ test, which is, anyway. And then you'll never hear about it. They don't share the results with you. I'm not sure to what extent they're used in the interviewing process, but I've now heard from multiple people, friends of mine, that have applied to different jobs that they get these tests. And what these companies are doing is they're trying to predict, are you going to be excellent at your job? Which is funny. And that is what the Big Five personality test does, is it predicts if you're going to be excellent at ABC, whatever role there is. There's a different personality test that you're probably thinking about because it's the most popular one, and it's the 16 personality types. If you Google personality tests, I'm pretty sure, let me Google personality test. Yep, that's right. It's the first one that comes up, the free 16 personalities. And this is the thing about the 16 personalities. I'll share my screen. 16 personalities, so fun. Let's look it up. What are the different personalities? You could be the mastermind, you could be the commander, you could be the teacher or the mediator or the defender or the entrepreneur. What do all of these 16 personality types have in common? They're all good. Everyone is a winner, which, I'll be honest, sometimes we need that, right? Sometimes we just need a participation trophy. But when it comes to the ability to predict how you're going to do well in life, or how you'll do well in different tasks, this isn't that useful because everybody's a winner. Scientists don't use the 16 personality tests. Timmy's do, which is fine. Like I said, there's a place for it. Now, so what's controversial then is something like the Big Five personality test, where not everybody's a winner. Some people have a personality setup that, thanks to capitalism and just natural laws and how the planet works, those set personality traits are going to set that person up for an easy life. And there are people who, on the opposite end of that, are going to struggle with certain things, and that sucks. It really sucks that not everybody is built like $1 million, Some people get the short end of the stick. I got the short end of the stick when it came to physical stuff. I by no means, by the way, am have the God personality set up. When we go through this, I'm going to tell you, there are some of these Big Five that I do not have the ideal composition of, which is okay. I've come to terms with all that. But I was going to say too, just so that I don't come across as too high and mighty, I think it's now a good time to share that I am physically disabled. You wouldn't know because you'd have to see my legs and feet, and you have to pay for that. So anyway, all right. So everyone's got their struggles. Nobody's perfect, but in the Big Five personality test, you can be pretty close to perfect. And yes, there are trade-offs with personality types, but as we go through these, you're going to get this sense of like, oh yeah, some of these are just going to make you a winner and successful in life, while some of these have obvious trade-offs. So let's dive in. Let's take a look at these. We're going to go for an overview. We're going to look at some definitions. Then we're going to talk about magic and selling. And do you have what it takes to be successful as a Magic the Gathering seller? All right, here we go. 5 personality traits. Like I said, these are very scientific. These are very powerful, and they range from just like high to low. And high isn't always good. Enter neuroticism. Neuroticism is negative emotion, your sensitivity to stress and emotional triggers. If you are highly neurotic, that comes with some superpowers, right? It's easier for you to have empathy. It's easier for you to, now whether you are empathetic or not depends on your agreeableness, but it's easier for you to be sensitive to people who have stress if you also have stress. If you're sensitive to stress, you can see bad things coming. But you also might see bad things coming that aren't actually coming. And that's very common with high neuroticism people. I am high in neuroticism, and it's, there's good to it, but the bad to it is that it's going to slow you down. You're potentially going to be more risk averse, and you potentially are going to not want to do things because of the potential for pain, and you anticipate that potential for pain. So anyways, neuroticism, that's one. Agreeableness, I'm starting at the bottom, working my way up. Agreeableness reflects how altruistic, cooperative, and trusting a person is. In general, it's just like, do you get along with people? Are you a people pleaser or nah? I, in general, am a people pleaser. I am sensitive to, so neuroticism plus agreeableness means that I can't read too deep into the comments section. Be nice out there. No, everyone actually has been super nice, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, so if you're high in agreeableness, that can be a good thing. You get along with other people, but you can also be a people pleaser and get taken advantage of. And now if you're low in agreeableness, you are just going to do it your way, and you're not as concerned about how other people are feeling. And so we'll get into the business implications of that more later. Extroversion. I think this one is probably the one people are most familiar with, being an extrovert or an introvert, which is also part of the 16 personality test, to give the 16 personality test credit. But you can be an extrovert, which in general is somebody who gets energy from interactions with other people. You are social, you are outgoing, you are energetic. And then introverts, on the other hand, in general, being with other people is energy draining. So you go to a party, and introverts can go to a party and have a good time, but it wears on them. Whereas an extrovert might get energy from being at the party, and it makes it easier for them to be like outgoing and energetic. Conscientiousness. This one is pretty linear, pretty cut and dry, in my opinion, which is this definition here is it describes how organized, reliable, and goal-oriented a person is. Right. So if you're high in conscientiousness, you are highly organized, you are highly reliable, you are highly goal-oriented. If you are low in conscientiousness, you are not organized, you're not reliable, and you're generally not goal-oriented. So, yeah. Anyways, moving on. Openness. Describes a person's interest in new and unfamiliar ideas and experiences. So if you're highly open, you're interested in trying new things. You're open to trying new things. You're also, in general, more open to learning new things. Openness, for example, is a trait that predicts college, like how interested you are in higher education. Highly open people are generally more interested in learning new things and changing their understanding of how the world works, while low openness people do not find a lot of value from higher education on average, in general, right? These are the big 5 personality traits. So let's talk about what these mean. Oh, look at my TCG player ads. So yeah, this gives some examples. I think we can now just go into Big Face Me and we'll talk through these. So I'll start in the same order that I kind of went through, like neuroticism. So that's one of the big 5 personality traits, neuroticism. What role does neuroticism play in your Magic the Gathering selling business journey? Well, if I read this, kind of example, it's like people high in neuroticism tend to experience mood swings, anxiety, feelings of vulnerability more frequently. People low in neuroticism are typically calm, resilient, and less emotionally reactive. So let me tell you, which one sounds better for running a trading card business? But seriously though, and like I said, this isn't to some people might learn something about themselves and be uncomfortable with that. And that's good. It's good to learn and experience discomfort and grow from it. But the stuff we learn here today does not judge you and determine what your life's going to look like. This is just averages and things like that. So for example, like I said earlier, am highly neurotic. I am very sensitive to negative feedback, which is part of agreeableness as well. But I do experience anxiety and feelings of vulnerability more frequently. That being said, I run a successful trading card business where I sold $100,000 of trading cards last year. I did not pocket $100,000 of trading card of money. I sold $100,000 of trading cards last year. And I consider myself to be a very successful Magic the Gathering backpack seller. So what role does neuroticism play in my business? Well, I am sensitive to the negative feedback that I get, and it can discourage me, and I do have to work hard to not be discouraged, to not let my anxiety or fears or vulnerability kind of get to me, and to just do it, right? So that's like a weakness that could hold myself back from being successful in this hobby and this side hustle, but alas, I think in many ways I've kind of conquered my neuroticism with the help of a psychiatrist. So anyways, moving on. That was good. Neuroticism is a good one to talk through. Agreeableness. People high in agreeableness are empathetic, generous, and inclined to seek harmony. People low in agreeableness come across as more competitive, skeptical, blunt. All right. When you're running a business, who's always right? The customer is always right. Kind of. And when you're on TCG Player and you sell a card and somebody gives you a 1-star review and says this card is moderately played and they sold it to me near mint and I am upset, and for a fact that you opened it up right out of a pack, put it inside of a sleeve. If you are low in agreeableness, you are very tempted to be F off, just be very aggressive with that upset customer. And you're tempted to perhaps to take it seriously in a negative way, right? So being low in agreeableness can be dangerous some ways when you're running your trading card business, because you're not going to have as much kind of empathy for your customers as you would if you're high in agreeableness. I am high in agreeableness. When somebody messages me and says hey, my card was moderately played and they said it was near mint, and even if I know that I pulled it out of a pack and put it straight into a sleeve, my high agreeableness combined with my neuroticism, I immediately default to think oh, the customer's right. That probably was moderately played. I probably nicked it and whatever, which could be true, but probably isn't true. Right? Probably this customer is just for just being objective here. Often customers can be erratic and wrong and just giving you negative feedback to give you negative feedback. So I shouldn't say often. My agreeableness is coming in. It's hard to know, right? And so I do come to my trading card business and my interactions with Magic with a lot of kind of agreeable tendencies, but I believe that people in general are kind and mean well, and that people can be trusted. Which, like, I saw a comment in my comment section the other day that was like, I don't trust anybody, so I put tracking on everything. And like, I'm the opposite of that, right? And there's a couple reasons why agreeableness, I think, is better for running a trading card business. One is just that it's it saves me a lot of money. so like the tracking thing. You can track every card, and there's cheap ways to track every card, but it still costs money, and that money adds up. And I have sold over 10,000. I have over 10,000 review on TCG Player, and I'm not sure I've even once been scammed. So these people who are like, I don't trust anybody, they're all trying to get me every $20 card I send it with some kind of tracking. I think you're just wasting money. And there's a lot of big sellers on YouTube that agree with me. I don't think you can find a single big seller who puts tracking on a $25 card, even if it's cheap tracking, even if you just paid 72 cents for that tracking or whatever. I don't think there's a single big seller who does that. If you found one, let me know in the comment section and I'll apologize or whatever. But like, when I think of all the big sellers on YouTube, they all plain white envelope up to like 30, 35 bucks, sometimes up to 50 bucks. And the reason is because if you do the math, the money you spend on that insurance and tracking adds up to way more than any scammers are scamming you. Any envelopes are actually getting lost in the mail. And so if you're low in agreeableness and you're like, no, I know the people out there, they're trying to get me, it can lead you to an irrational decision where you'll just end up wasting money. So that's one way agreeableness is really helpful, is it can help you save money by giving benefit of the doubt to your customers who buy cards from you online. And then the other way that agreeableness can help you is just by positive interactions with customers and being gracious, that when you have to cancel an order, you're very apologetic, and that can help your reviews. I imagine that if I was less kind in my messages and interactions with customers, I would have worse feedback rating on TCG Player, which mine isn't the best ever. It's not 100%, but it's 99.9, which is pretty good. Pretty good. Anyways, that's agreeableness. So moving along, extroversion and introversion. Being an extrovert or an introvert. So the extrovert, just to remind you, is someone who gains energy from social interactions and is more motivated to interact and talk with people and start up conversations with strangers, while introverts are more kept to themselves and less likely to gain energy from a social situation. Which one is preferable to running a trading card business? Well, I'll tell you what. If you're going to open up a game store and you're a hardcore introvert, I would caution you because it sounds so exhausting. If you're not a people person and you don't like greeting strangers, it sounds so exhausting to own a business just in general. Now, all businesses need someone working behind the scenes to make stuff happen. Like introverts have a huge, enormous role in all of the economy, including running small businesses. But I'm just thinking about, I think about Final Trade and that guy, who I don't know his name. I keep calling him the Final Trade guy. I love him. He's great. But he opened up a store relatively recently, and he runs it. You know, I think of Game Vitamins. I think of Kitchen Table TCG. I think of RNG Games. It's like all of these people seem like, whether they're introverts or extroverts, they have mastered striking up a conversation with a stranger, saying what needs to be said, communicating well. So anyways, these are all traits that are commonly associated with extroversion. Like extroverts are going to just have an easier time interacting with strangers, even backpack sellers. So if I was the most introverted of introverts, I believe I am an extrovert. I do gain energy from social situations. Although I'm like closer in the middle, I think. But, you know, if I was more shy, I would not be willing to reach out to strangers on Facebook Marketplace and offer them 70% for their collections, meeting up with people. it's like these are things that you've got to get out of your comfort zone if you're an introvert. And then if you're an extrovert, hopefully it's closer to your comfort zone to deal with strangers and to make deals and to make new friends. So that's kind of the take on extroversion, introversion. It's certainly, being an introvert is certainly not a disqualifier in any way, but being successful in the business, you have to work with strangers. You have to buy things from people you don't know. You have to sell things to people you don't know. And a lot of that's on the internet, right? Well, on TCG Player, you're just selling stuff. But like, I get these bulk lots. I'm like pointing to like, what is that? 8-9 boxes of Modern Horizons 3 bulk. You've got to move that stuff. And so I list on non-TCG Player on Facebook Marketplace, right? And sell these bulk lots, and got to be willing to meet up with people. And, if you're not willing to do that because you're so shy, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to run a casual or a non-casual trading card business. Conscientiousness. We're getting close. There's conscientiousness and one more, openness. And so conscientiousness, second to last one we're talking about for the night or the day. Good morning to those of you who listen in the morning. Conscientiousness describes a person's tendency to be organized, responsible, goal-driven. High conscientious people are reliable, careful, persistent in their efforts. Low, see, even this website's trying to like do caveats to be like, it's not that bad if you have the bad one. Low in conscientiousness may be more spontaneous or flexible, but can struggle with follow-through, time management, or attention to detail. Yeah, conscientiousness is the thing. Like, I might be misremembering this stat, but I'm pretty confident about this, hence me sharing it on a YouTube video, is that CEOs generally are always high conscientiousness and they're always low agreeableness, which makes a lot of sense. Because if you're going to run a big company, you have to be organized. You have to have attention to detail. You cannot be successful if you're not organized and attentive to detail. And then the agreeableness thing, if you're a yes person, yes man, yes woman, whatever, you get in trouble. You just get in trouble. At big companies, you end up signing up for way more work than you can possibly get done, and it's over. To be successful at a big company, you have to put your foot down lots of times. My professional career, I've struggled with this because, like I said, I'm naturally quite agreeable, but you kind of have to show up to work and be like, no, I'm not doing that. To be successful at a big company. Now, being successful in Magic cards, attention to detail. If you're listing cards on TCG Player and you're not attentive to detail, you're going to get in trouble. If you're packing cards and sending them out and you are not attentive to detail, you're going to get in trouble. And I'm not saying that you won't make mistakes. I've made mistakes. Every seller has made mistakes, no matter how high you are in conscientiousness. I am high in conscientiousness, but I'm not like, I've got room to grow. I make mistakes, especially with listing cards is my one like Achilles heel in my trading card business, is that like my TCG app, I'll scan a card and I'll scan twice and I won't notice. And then I end up listing the card twice when it should have only been listed once. And then somebody will buy 2 copies of the card. I only have 1. It's a disaster. It's really not good. So I try to be so careful whenever I'm scanning, but I still make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes with their trading card businesses. But know thyself. Are you, I don't want to discourage anybody. You should try it out. If you try it out and you don't do a good job and you realize it's not for you, that's okay. That's totally okay. But I think it's okay to try it out. And as long as you're not accidentally scamming somebody of hundreds of dollars, it's fine. If you sell somebody a $1 card and you accidentally mix up $2, $1 cards in 2 different envelopes and send them to the wrong people, like boo-hoo, the customers will give you a bad review, maybe, but it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But when I say know thyself, it's just like, if you're like, oh yeah, selling Magic cards as a side hustle is going to be like incredible for me, and maybe I can grow that, and maybe I can be like a spell finder and sell millions of cards on TCG Player. If you don't have the kind of conscientiousness skills, that is going to be very hard to do. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. It's going to be hard for you to keep orders straight, inventory straight. There's just a level of orderliness that is kind of required to be successful on TCG Player or as a backpack seller or whatever. So that's kind of the thoughts around conscientiousness. I've said it like 4 times now, but I'll just reinforce again. If I'm going through these and you're getting depressed because you're like, oh crap, I've got the bad ones, it's okay. On average, like these are measured in percentiles. They're not measured. It's not like a score. It's not like you can, be perfect. You can just, it's how good are you compared to other people. And if you're in the 50th percentile of conscientiousness, that means that you're just as conscientious. You're the average. You're an average person, which is okay. If you're the 20th percentile of conscientiousness, you're below average, but that's okay. You can still be very successful and lead a great, successful life. It's probably just not going to be doing any of the like things where you have to be the carefulest person in the world, Anyways. All right, moving on. Openness. Openness refers to a person's tendency to display intellectual curiosity, creativity, preference for novelty. High in openness are typically imaginative, eager to explore new ideas, comfortable with ambiguity and change. Low prefer familiarity, practical tasks, established routines. So openness is required if things are changing, right? So if you have no openness and the world changes around you, you're just hosed, which nobody has no openness. Like we all have some openness. Otherwise you just would never learn anything. But, and so the question becomes like in trading cards, in owning a store, in the trading card world, in Magic the Gathering world, do things change? And I would say in many ways, yeah, things are changing. Wizards of the Coast is not printing out the wazoo like they used to relative to demand. There's changing demand for products like collector booster boxes, where we're seeing pre-order prices for The Hobbit spike to all-time highs. Which, by the way, The Hobbit pre-order pricing right now is higher than any pre-order pricing for any collector booster box has ever been, like ever. Like Fallout was $400. Final Fantasy was like $600. So we're getting some bonker territory. Anyways, so there are some changes, but in a big picture way, it's all the same. You buy collections and you sell them at a margin, right? So I buy collections at 70%. I sell them at 85%. Sorry, 100%. After shipping and fees, I take home 85%, which means I really took home 15%. So, the rough math for how much money did I actually take home last year, if I sold $100,000 of stuff, if I had 15% margins, that means I actually pocketed $15,000, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so how much openness do you need? I don't know, some. I don't think, like, if you're owning a trading card store and you're not just dealing with, Magic, but you're also dealing with Pokemon and One Piece and Lorcana and Riftbound and previously Altered. Check out my Altered booster box up here. I was so happy to nab that. Rest in peace, Altered. If you have all these different products coming and such, you need to be on the ball. You need to be interested in learning what is going on in the industry. So for owning a trading card store, somebody in the business, one of the partners, somebody needs to have high openness. Someone needs to have intellectual curiosity to figure out what's going on, to adapt. But if you're a backpack seller like me, I don't know. Things aren't changing that much. Maybe the Roka Sifter will come out later this year and people who aren't like high in openness are going to miss out and get hosed or something. I don't know, maybe, but I don't think so. I think on average, just like the business is pretty simple for backpack sellers like myself. What am I? I think I'm fairly high in openness. I loved college. I the learning part of it. I did not have a lot of fun in college, man. Not much partying, but I learned stuff, and I guess that pays off now as I get to talk about psychology and economics on YouTube and how it relates to my Magic addiction. But yeah, I'm pretty high in openness. So lucky me, I guess. Anyways, that's all, folks. Thanks for listening. I am really excited to roll out my Discord in the next couple days, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, subscribe. We'll see you.